girl is all over your box, and today it is a very special day because today we are showing love to Latoyia Figueroa. And I promised her dad, Mr. Melvin, that I would make it my business to never let the city of Philadelphia forget Latoyia Figueroa. Okay, so I guess although her baby's dad was found guilty and everything, and he is in prison now, I have always believed, because I was told at the time things behind the scenes, as well as some things that were made public. And Stephen Poaches, which that is Latoyia Figueroa's baby's dad who killed her, he was brought up on the charges. But his baby's mom, he had another baby mom, and she was pregnant. She was jealous of Latoyia. It was a lot going on. And so I just want to let you know, shoot this out right now. All right, shoot this out to everybody that you know that loves Latoyia Figueroa, because I have some exclusive stuff that I'm going to be playing today. That
more than 600,000 people go missing each year in the United States. Only a tiny fraction of those cases get media attention. People in the news business are like in every profession. They wrestle with questions of right or wrong, fairness and accuracy, perception and reality. Some are good at it and some aren't, wrote Tom Foreman for a CNN blog post from 2006. I've never, not even once, seen a story spiked because the victim was not attractive enough or the wrong race. But I've seen plenty of stories fall by the wayside, pushed down and out of the show because a consensus develops that says, I don't think our viewers are very interested in this case, he continued. Is that racism or realism? We can't cover every murder, but ignoring them all or reporting just statistics seems irresponsible. So how should we decide whose life or loss is covered? When pretty young women, especially white ones, are killed or disappear, media storms often follow.
Nearly 2 decades after Alabama teen Natalie Holloway vanished in Aruba, her mother learned for sure what she always suspected. Natalie was killed by Joran Vandersloot, and today he finally revealed what happened all those years ago as part of a plea deal.
There is no polite way to say it, and it's a fact of television news. Media and social critics call the wall-to-wall coverage that seems to swirl around these events missing white woman syndrome. That was a phrase invoked by Sherry Parks, a professor of American Studies at the University of Maryland. The phenomenon is characterized by critics as a short and cynical equation. Pretty, white, damsels in distress draw viewers. Missing women who are black, Latino, Asian, old, fat, or ugly do not. I think the critics are a lot right, and I think they are a little wrong, he ended the blog post with. In my opinion, every missing person deserves news coverage. As a person who grapples with what stories to cover and which ones not to, I know these decisions aren't easy. But swirling around the news in 2005 and 2006 was this discussion and why the disparity in coverage was taking place. One of the cases that put this issue on the forefront is Latoyia Figueroa. This story about Latoyia is both heartbreaking and mysterious. She was a young mom with a 7-year-old daughter, and she was pregnant with her second child, radiating that maternal glow. Until one day, she vanished, seemingly without a trace. Growing up without her mother was tough for Latoyia, friends said. The grandmother who raised her died when Latoyia was in high school. Latoyia Figueroa never learned to drive and never made it to college. She dreamed of being a nurse. Her father, Melvin Figueroa, lived in another part of the city. Her friends seemed to think that the two were not close. But she was close to her high school sweetheart, Anthony Williams, who was the father of her first child, Izane, who Latoyia was supposed to pick up from school the day she disappeared. Latoyia and Anthony met at a high school choir practice. Williams said they were instantly attracted to each other. They were talking about getting back together, Williams said in an interview back in 2005 while Latoyia was missing. I think she's still alive. I can feel it, he said. On Monday, July 18, 2005, Latoyia and her boyfriend, Stephen Poaches, went to her monthly checkup. After her appointment, he says they grabbed a quick bite to eat before heading back to his place, where she supposedly left around 3 p.m. That's when everything goes dark, and no one saw her after that. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance were troubling. Latoyia was supposed to pick up her daughter from school that day, but she never showed. Even more concerning, her phone, which she always had on her, went silent. There was zero activity on her bank account as well. Her family was obviously devastated, but they held out hope. Stephanie Stevenson, a relative who raised Latoyia after her mother passed away, mentioned how hard this has been for the close-knit family. "We're holding up by the grace of God," she said. Stephanie described Latoyia's mother as her sister, as they'd grown up together, showing how strong the family bond was. Police found Latoyia's mom dead on a Philadelphia street with a deep cut in her throat. It was April 13, 1985. Her mom, Ann Taylor, was only 22. Philadelphia police spoke to everyone in Latoyia's circle, yet they found nothing to suggest what might have happened. The police at the time mentioned that Latoyia was a victim of a robbery just a few months prior in April of 2005, but they didn't think the incidents were related. Latoyia's family stated that the lack of media coverage of her disappearance only brought more tragedy to an already troubled search. Her father, Melvin Figueroa, who was 44 at the time, and a construction subcontractor, said, "I can barely eat, I can barely sleep, I just want her back." The first and obvious key suspect was the father of her unborn child and boyfriend, Stephen Poaches. Stephen and Latoyia had been together for years. They were having severe relationship issues as Stephen had another woman, an ex-girlfriend, pregnant at the time, meaning he likely cheated. Plus, he was urging Latoyia to get an abortion. Because of religious reasons, Latoyia didn't believe in getting an abortion, and this was causing a major strife in the relationship. The argument back and forth continued between the two for months until July 18, 2005. Latoyia did not return home that night and also didn't show up for work that evening at TGI Fridays. Latoyia was scheduled for a prenatal appointment on the day of her disappearance and attended it with Stephen. Stephen claimed they went back to his apartment and she left around 3 p.m. that afternoon when he was interviewed by detectives a few days after her disappearance. According to detectives, Stephen initially downplayed the problems the couple had when they brought him in for questioning. The fact that he was the last person with her, plus the couple's relationship issues the detectives learned of, gave them major concerns. Based off that alone, they didn't have enough to hold him beyond the allotted 72 hours and had to let him go. The family grew frustrated with the lack of news coverage Latoyia's disappearance received. For the most part, researchers in this area have dedicated their energies to the broader context of race, media, and crime, rather than race, media, and abduction, so research is limited. Still, there is some evidence to suggest that missing whites are more likely to garner media attention than their non-white counterparts. A study done by Scripps Howard News Service analyzed CNN and the Associated Press, or the AP, news reports pertaining to child abductions from 2000 to 2004. The study found that 162 AP stories and 43 CNN reports dramatically overrepresented white children. To establish a baseline racial composition for comparison, the researchers used data from the Department of Justice and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to estimate that between 53 and 54% of missing children from that time frame were white. In contrast, 67% of the AP reports and an even higher 76% of CNN stories focused on white children. As a result, there were disproportionately fewer stories highlighting Black and Hispanic children. It was in this media climate that the Latoyia Figueroa case took place. She disappeared on July 18, 2005. By the time August had come, Stephen Poaches said that he was growing fearful of the Figueroas. Even though he was the main suspect in her disappearance, Stephen Poaches would go on the Golden Girls late show talk called Love Talk and Slow Jams, Power 99's late night show revolving around sex advice. He would go on the radio and say things like, "When I see her, I'm going to make sure she's okay, and then I don't want to see her anymore. Hopefully she's in a hotel mad at everyone," he was quoted as saying on the show in July of 2005. These comments came after Melvin Figueroa, Latoyia's father, criticized Stephen for not taking part in search efforts that had been underway for weeks. "Why would I help if you think I've done something already?" Stephen told Golden Girl. During the interview, Stephen repeatedly referred to Latoyia as that female. And when Golden Girl confronted him and asked him to refer to her as his baby's mother, he refused.
I'm outside. I can't come in there and get on the radio?
Well, I mean, where you at? Because I'm looking.
Pull in there?
You turning into the parking lot now.
Yeah, that's me.
that I want to celebrate her, but I want to let you know that we're not going to let her memory be forgotten. I do believe that although her baby's dad was found guilty and everything, and he is in prison now, I have always believed, because I was told at the time things behind the scenes, as well as some things that were made public. And Stephen Poaches, which that is Latoyia Figueroa's baby's dad who killed her, he was brought up on the charges. But his baby's mom, he had another baby mom, and she was pregnant. She was jealous of Latoyia. It was a lot going on. And so many things happened during that time. Like I said, a lot of people searched. The city was searching. People came from other states to search. And at that time, there was another person, Natalie Holloway, a white girl. You may remember her. She had gone missing. And the news, the media was covering her story, and they wouldn't give Latoyia any type of coverage. And so bloggers came together in Philadelphia and really went hard at the media until they covered the story. And when they learned that it was playing out on the show, everyone wanted to hear what I had to say and listen in and listen to the tapes of what this man said. He called me several nights. He continued to call. He called me on my personal phone, and he called me as well on the station lines. And so this went on for an excess of 31 days. I preempted the entire music at Power 99. My bosses allowed me to do it. This story gripped the city. But this one person who was the other girlfriend, who I always believed had something to do with it, because I was told that she was there. She called in. Her comments didn't add up. You were there and y'all had sex on the bed, and you say Latoyia was under the bed, but you knew nothing. And I know that she had asked me for years to just please not say anything else about it. And I just refused to do that, because at the end of the day, she's here and Latoyia is not. What I'm going to do is let you hear. First of all, I'm going to let you know that I'm about to flame this girl. This call that you're about to hear happened a few years ago, 18 years ago. No, let me back that up. This call happened 15 years ago, because she let 3 years go by. The girl, Lisa, the other baby's mom, she let 3 years go by and she never called in. Her family, her friends, everybody called in, but she didn't. And on the third year, on the anniversary show, she called in. And yes, I did flame her. And if she called in today, I'd do the same.
Hi, it's Lisa. How are you?
Lisa.
I'm Stephen's baby's mother.
Oh, okay.
Surviving.
Okay. Lisa.
I'm not calling for that. I'm just calling from woman to woman, mother to mother. If you guys continue to have these conversations, if you can just leave me and my daughter's names, even that we exist out of it.
Well, we never even know about your daughter or your daughter's name or anything like that.
No, I know you don't know her name. I'm pretty sure some people do, but I would just really appreciate if you could leave me out of it, me and her. I know everyone in the city suffered during the entire time, and no matter what anyone ever wants to believe, my family suffered also. And I would just like to ask you, again, woman to woman, mother to mother, if you could just not allow people to call and say derogatory things about me. I didn't do anything to anyone. I didn't hurt anyone. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Right. Well, I don't have control over what other people say or whatever the case.
In a way you do. Because you have a responsibility not to let negativity continue to spread.
Right. Exactly. I do have a responsibility.
Right.
I also have a responsibility to be truthful to everybody. You're asking a lot. You understand? Like, you're asking a lot. Hold up. You're asking a lot for a woman who is sitting here living, talking, and breathing. I'm speaking and representing for a woman who cannot speak or breathe for herself.
I'm happy that.
Okay, so
at some point that wasn't me, and like I said, I am not happy that ever happened to her or anybody else that it happened to. She is not the first person, and unfortunately, she won't be the last. Hear about situations like this in the news, in the media, all the time.
Okay, but that doesn't minimize what happened because you hear about it.
I'm only asking that you just respect me.
Okay, well, I'm telling you now. I'm letting you know right now. I'm letting you know right now, sweetheart. I'm letting you know right now. I really don't have a whole lot of sympathy for you because you know why? I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to keep it all the way real with you. You're sitting here and you're telling me all this, that, and the third about have some sympathy because your family went through this and your family went through that. But how about deep down in my heart, you say that you wish this wouldn't have happened, this, that, and the third. I don't believe that because I believe that you wanted Latoyia to not be around because you wanted that man that bad. And I also believe that on the day that Latoyia, listen, hello, and I personally believe on the day that Latoyia was murdered, you were right there. That's my belief. So no, I'm not going to give you any sympathy for it. Now that's my belief.
Everybody has their opinion,
right?
And I've heard every possible which way people.
And when he sat in that courtroom and he told that story about how he took her body and he pulled it underneath the bed, and you came to his house and you didn't know she was there. There's no way that you came there while she was dead underneath the bed and you didn't know she was there. I don't buy it then and I don't buy it now. So I'm saying I believe you were there. Okay. And as a matter of fact, not only am I saying I believe you were there, the other person who he got at the time, the other guy, that guy's name, let me pull his interview, whatever the case. The other guy who was there with him when they found Latoyia's body, he also said that Stephen Poaches told him that you were there. So were you there?
Go on, girl. I did not call here for that.
Okay, see now all of a sudden you sound like Stephen Poaches.
I call for a simple.
Okay, but see that's what happens when you call.
That's it.
But were you there? You ain't even answered the question.
Listen, did I ever go to trial, Golden Girl?
You ain't had to go to trial. I'm asking you the question. You called up here to ask me woman to woman. Remember?
Sitting on that damn stand.
Right, but you called here to ask me woman to woman, and I'm asking you woman to woman, were you there? And you don't want to answer the question. Like I said, I listened to what he said.
Girl, not a problem. Okay. I understand that for the rest of my life, that these are kinds of things and the accusations that are.
Because you know what? Whatever you do in the dark, eventually, Lisa, whatever you do in the dark, eventually it comes out in the light. That's right. And God don't like no ugly. And if you weren't there, see, it's your conscience that's eating you up 3 years later. You could have called here 2 years ago. You could have called here 2 years ago. I've done this show. This is the third year.
I tried to get through.
Lisa, please, this is the third year. All your family members and everybody else got through. This is the third year. Family members? That's right. Your family members. This is the third year.
I wasn't aware of that. So, you know.
You know what? Like I said. Either way, you still never answered the question. And whatever you did.
And I don't have a problem with not answering that question. Because I don't have to answer to you.
You're right. You don't have to answer to me, but you do have to answer to God.
Latoyia's family, including her 7-year-old daughter, were distraught. Latoyia wasn't the type to just disappear, especially without her 7-year-old. By August 3rd, police still considered it a missing persons case, but homicide detectives started to help out. Stephen Poaches was being reported in the papers as a, quote, person of interest. With no leads and nowhere to go, police focused on Stephen. They searched his home, anywhere he lived in the past. They even went to his job at an oil yard on the banks of the Schuylkill River. But they came up with nothing, and the days were growing more desperate, and any hope that she was alive was fading day by day. After a local blogger pestered the papers about the lack of news coverage, the embarrassed news media turned the coverage into overdrive. Day after day, the Daily News and Inquirer ran stories about the search. CNN ran stories. HLN, Nancy Grace, everybody was talking about this case, which started as a missing person search. It soon started to feel like they were searching for a dead body, as the searches moved from anyone that knew them's houses to wooded areas and more isolated places. Weeks and weeks went by with search parties with dogs and hundreds of volunteers, and they turned up nothing. That was until a man named Javar Austin contacted police with some shocking information. He claimed that Stephen Poaches had contacted him and asked him to move a body. He said he was threatened by Stephen and was shown a gun and told if he didn't help, he would be killed. So he obliged. Fearing he himself would be implicated, he then told police what happened. Police, shocked at the break, had to contemplate what to do next. Javar thinks that Stephen wants to kill him and frame him for the murders, but they could use Javar to lure Stephen back to the gravesite. Some might be asking why Stephen wanted to move the body in the first place. Some people speculated back then that it was guilt setting in. Latoyia's father had done a spectacular job of keeping her name alive in the headlines, and like I said, the news was doing wall-to-wall coverage of this case, so he was feeling guilty and paranoid that he would be caught. Not guilty as in sorry, but guilty as in, well, guilty. Police brought Javar down to the station and fitted him with a wire, and the reassurance that even though they thought Stephen wanted to kill him, as long as he was continuing to help Stephen and move the body, he would be safe. Javar realized the danger with continuing the mission, but he probably had that $100,000 as motivation, and like I said, he had the police's reassurance that he would be safe. The police brought out helicopters and dozens of officers in the area where Alston told them that the body was. Javar Alston met up with Stephen Poaches and they went to move the body, and the police even let Stephen Poaches get as far as digging the body up before moving in and making an arrest. A month after Latoyia went missing, Stephen Poaches, the ex-boyfriend who told police and a radio audience that he knew nothing of Latoyia's disappearance, was arrested while trying to move the pregnant woman's decomposing body in Chester on Saturday, August 20th, 2005. We all suspected it was him, said Figueroa's cousin, Archie Padilla, of Northeast Philadelphia. He wouldn't participate in a search, he didn't care about the baby, then he was calling the radio to try and defend himself, Padilla said. Poaches, who was 25 at the time, lived on the 5800 block of Walton Avenue in West Philadelphia and was arrested in a weed-filled lot at 4th and Palmer Streets in Chester, where Figueroa's body was found. He was wearing a bulletproof vest and had a .45 caliber handgun on him, seemingly showing that he did in fact intend to kill LeVar Alston. Speaking of that reward money, Alston, or a different informant whose name was changed in the newspaper for anonymity, was only able to claim $10,000 of the promised $100,000. According to this Inquirer article, apparently the person who set up the fund paid $80,000 to the fund and then had tax evasion charges. And also, apparently Alston or some other informant was paid between $10,000 and $20,000 in an envelope on a street corner downtown. The process for collecting reward money is notoriously weird, and this article does nothing to help clear up the confusion. Latoyia Figueroa spent the morning on July 18, 2005 with Stephen Poaches, the father of her unborn daughter. The two left his red brick row house and drove to Pennsylvania Hospital for a morning's doctor appointment to check the health of the fetus. Neither of them had the money to pay the $35 insurance copay, so they left the hospital and drove back to Southwest Philadelphia. Before heading back to his place, the pair stopped off for some fried food at Mr. Hook's Fish and Chicken in West Philly. I accidentally let my temper get the best of me, resulting in Latoyia's death, Stephen Poaches told police. We had an argument, a couple of blows. That's when I grabbed her neck to stop her from hitting me, and I squeezed a little too long. Poaches' confession was read aloud in court. ADA, Carlos Vega, had no problem prosecuting this case. With all the things we've talked about, and plus an at the time brand new FBI cash system, which is what we are all aware of now as cell tower data, was introduced. Back in 2005, it had never been used as evidence in Pennsylvania court, and this case was the first case it was used in. The Commonwealth had no problem, like I said, convicting Stephen Poaches as the evidence was overwhelming. His guilty plea handed him a life sentence. He avoided the death penalty under the condition that he wouldn't appeal his case. The prosecution contends that he murdered her because he didn't want to keep the baby, and I think common sense would lead most people to that conclusion. The defense said that Stephen Poaches let an argument get out of hand and accidentally killed his girlfriend. Latoyia Figueroa's unfortunate case and the aftermath of her disappearance is a landmark case in the city of Philadelphia. It not only changed the way that the media, if not only for a short time, covered missing Black and Latino women and children, it also introduced cell phone site evidence as being used more and more until today, where it's common practice and almost standard evidence in most murder cases. Rest in peace to Latoyia Figueroa. I'ma leave it there for now. Thanks for watching American Confidential, and until next time, be safe.